Cold King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his points, and he called for his goals, and he called for his captaincy. Yes, Cole Palmer, 29 points in a game week, almost double the next highest scoring player out of all of the players in the game. Game week 6 certainly changed up a few things. Let's see how this content creator got on in the game week. Let's find out. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, welcome to midweek matchups from the Cloudy Sky Fantasy Football Show, episode 5. And this game week was a tale of two halves, really. Half of the game who owned Cole Palmer and the other half who didn't. His 29-pointer Saturday afternoon was what made or broke the game for just about everybody, to be honest. We were fortunate enough to be away in the Isle of Wight over the weekend to celebrate our anniversary. So I was out on the Haven Seat Steam Railway Saturday. A lovely, lovely place to go. Very nice people over there. Old-fashioned steam engine going through some of the lesser-known parts of the Isle of Wight, up to Wootton, out to a junction. I forget its name now, but there's a junction up there as well, there and back. And there was very little internet about, to be honest. It's one of those parts of the country where you don't get the best connectivity. So when we eventually got back to where we were staying on the east coast, opened up the notifications, and there we were. We got a 29-pointer from Cole Palmer. 4 goals, all in the first half. And he sort of scored most of the points that everybody got on Saturday, really. There was a couple of other players that got sort of 10-ish points. Watkins and Salah, of those that are reasonably highly owned. But as I say, it was a Cold King Cole. And I was certainly a merry old soul by the time we'd finished Saturday. Let's have a look at the team then and see how it all fell into place. Just get rid of that. So here we are, 117 for the week, which was in, for a change, the top 20%. I think it was about 70th altogether. So Dean Henderson in goal for his customary 1-pointer. We had Saliba. Arsenal conceded twice to Leicester, and he wasn't in the bonus again, I don't think. Robinson got clean sheet for Fulham, one of only 2 clean sheets, I think, this week. He got his 7 points. Van Heck was a no-show, and we found out today, it's Wednesday today, and we found out he's going to be out for over a month, so probably not back till roundabout after not the upcoming international break, but the one after. So there's a decision to be made on him, I think. So in midfield, Cole Palmer, 29 points, doubled up to 58 as captain. Saka, just a 4-pointer. Erling Haaland, only a 4-pointer. Mo Salah got 9, and Buemo scored in the first minute again. I think that's 3 games on the trot Brentford has scored first-minute goals. That must be some kind of a record, even for those that go on their Premier League records rather than to when football first started. So that was Saturday's points, and we had a Morsey for 2. So we made 2 changes on Saturday, which was Rodri out and Grimaris out, bringing in Saka and Mbeumo, as detailed in Friday Night Live last week. And then Sunday's points, who do we have playing Sunday? It was Morsey, I think, Sunday, and Romero as captain. Tottenham absolutely battered Manchester United at Old Trafford. Romero got his clean sheet, passing bonus for a 20-pointer. Morsey had 2, and then there was an additional change made on Monday. Dibbling, I think it's Tyler Dibbling, might be wrong, but Dibbling was playing for Southampton in an up-front position. So I thought, well, Morsey hadn't really done much. Dibbling was only 2.1 million, so I've saved another 0.3 in the bank. for as and when we want to make another change. So it could be something to use with Van Heck, we shall see. So he came in, played most of the game up front for Southampton. They were very poor, to be honest. Bournemouth 3-1 was flattering to Southampton. I think they didn't really know what they were doing in the first half. Those that have gone in on Bournemouth players for the single game day, they did well. And that dropped me back a bit because I was doing a bit better after Sunday, and only 2 points for Dibbling on Monday didn't really help matters. So I say 117 for the week, down to 31 transfers now though, so that's a bit of a worry, but we are where we are. And as I say, with Van Heck out, we might be down to 30 fairly shortly. That we'll come to that on a Friday night live this week with what the plan is for Van Heck, because I haven't made one yet. So let's have a look at the leagues. So the overall leaderboard is becoming a bit of a theme here. With Duncan Bailey still at the top. He's on 674, still 26 clear of Barry Morrison. Then we have Ben Parkin in third. Will White and John Logan, fourth and fifth. And then rounding out the top 10, we've got Jeff Evans, Scott Bailey, Michelle Burnett, Michael Spreadborough, and Kushal Banerjee. Some very good scores. So if we have a look at the scores for the week, best of the week was Dominic Moran, 144. He's a 59th overall. Second, Chris Parry, 141, 41st overall. And third, Jack Forbes with 137, and he's 108th overall. And we can see Barry Morrison has moved up to second, had the 5th highest score of the week. And down at the bottom of what we can see on the screen there, Michael Spreadborough in 8th overall, made up with his 128 points this week. So let's have a look and see who scored all of the points. We'll check on the match centres. We'll go to game week 6. And the first game, the TNT 12:30, was a Newcastle 1, Manchester City 1. And in the tier points, we had Trippier and Bruno Guimaraes with tier 1 tackles, Joel Linton with tier 2. No Newcastle players in the passing. Nick Pope with tier 3 saves. And with the shots, Barnes and Gordon, who scored the goal, with tier 1. And Joel Linton with tier 2. For Manchester City, Bernardo Silva with tier 1 tackles and Kovacic with tier 2. In the passes, Akanji, tier 1. And then 2 players with tier 2, Diaz and Kovacic. Edison with tier 1 saves. And with the shots, Gvardiol tier 1, who scored. Gundogan tier 1. And Silva tier 1, Erling Haaland tier 2. And it was Jack Grealish with the assist for Gvardiol. So 1-1 there. And Arsenal 4, Leicester 2. So in the tackles for Arsenal, Calafiori tier 1, Timber tier 2 and Partey tier 2. In the passing, Calafiori, Saliba, Timber all on tier 1. And tier 3, Gabriel, Rice and Partey. And in the shots, lots of shots on target here for Arsenal. Rice tier 1. Tier 2s for Gabriel, Martinelli, Saka, Trossard and Havertz. And we have the goals there from Martinelli, Trossard and Havertz, with the own goal from Ndidi, assists from Timber, Martinelli and Trossard. And we also had off the bench shots for Nwaneri and Jesus. For Leicester, tackles, Mavididi tier 1, tier 3 for Christensen with 7 and Ndidi with 8. Nobody in the passing. In the saves, Hermansen 13 saves for only a tier 3. It really should be more like tier 6, 7 or 8, shouldn't it? And shots, Buonanotte, who had the assist, and tier 1, and Justin, 2 goals, tier 2. Some performance, that's 16 points. I can't see Leicester doing many clean sheets, and I can't see Justin scoring worldies every week. But certainly, if it's cheap, I imagine. We'll have a check on that on Friday Night Live, see what the prices are. So next game, Brentford 1, West Ham 1. So in the tiers for Brentford, tackles, tier 1 for Mbeumo, tier 2 for Carvalho, and tier 3 for Damsgaard. Passing, Collins and Pinnock, both with tier 2. So would they play in a 4-4-2? I didn't see a lot of this. Vandenberg looks like he might be left back there, unless it's three at the back. Something to have a check on. Yes, I think Pinnock's fairly cheap, so if he's going to get passing, then he might be a replacement for Van Heck, certainly with the fixtures coming up. And the goal was scored by Mbeumo, assisted by Carvalho. For West Ham, in the tackles, Todibo tier 1 and Souček tier 1, Rodriguez tier 2, nobody in the passing. And for shots, we had Kudos tier 1, Souček who scored tier 1, and Soler off the bench tier 1. Chelsea 4, Brighton 2. So for Chelsea, tackles, Fernandez and Caicedo tier 1, Gusto tier 2, nobody in the passing. Sanchez tier 2 saves, and shots tier 2 for Jackson and tier 3 for Palmer. Palmer with all 4 goals, Sancho and Jackson with the assists. For Brighton, tackles, Kadioglu and Balibar, tier 1. Lewis Dunk with 98 passes for tier 3. And in the shots, Welbeck and Rutter, who scored one of the goals, tier 1. And Ciso, tier 1 off the bench. And Balibar, tier 2, who scored and assisted. Everton 2, Crystal Palace 1. So in the tackles for Everton, Mangala tier 2, nobody in the passing, Pickford with tier 1 saves, and McNeil, who scored both goals, tier 2 shots. They were the only 2 shots on target for Everton. Assists for Young. For Crystal Palace, tackles, Lacroix tier 1, Kamada tier 2, and Mitchell tier 3. In the passes, Lerma tier 1 and Wharton tier 1, Guehi tier 3. And in the shots on target, Guehi, who scored, tier 1, Wharton tier 1 and Eze tier 1, and Munoz tier 2. Nottingham Forest 0, Fulham 1. So for Nottingham Forest, there's not a lot going on here. Yates with tier 1 tackles and Silva off the bench tier 1 shots. They only have 1 shot on target for the entire game. Fulham, not much better going on here either, to be honest. Bassi tier 1 passes, Anderson tier 3 passes. And 2 shots on target for Jimenez, and he scored the goal. Then the evening game is one of the few that I did see. This was Wolves 1, Liverpool 2. Strange game. Liverpool seemed very much disjointed. Scored set-piece goal through Konate not long after half-time. Then about 10 minutes after that, Konate, I don't know what he was doing with Becker, dawdling, not paying any attention. Ended up with giving the ball away. I think it was Kuna that nipped in, picked it up. He managed to knock it into the middle, and it was scored by Ait Nouri. very much a poacher's goal, but bad mistake from Liverpool that. And then there was the penalty, sort of harsh but fair, I guess. Those are seen as. Once it's given, it's not getting overturned. And that was Mo Salah, who treated his owners to 9 points in the end. So the tiers for Wolves in the tackles, we have Bueno with tier 1, nobody in the passes, Johnston in goal with tier 2 saves, and shots on target for Aït-Nouri, I say who scored, Bellegarde and Cunha. For Liverpool in the tackles, Gravenberch tier 1 tackles, passes, Robertson, Konate and Gravenberch all tier 1, and Van Dijk tier 3. So last week we had Van Dijk not doing much in the passing and Konate getting them all. Seemed a bit reversed on Saturday. And then shots, Konate, who scored tier 1, Alexander-Arnold tier 1, Szoboszlai tier 1, and Mo Salah, who scored his penalty tier 2, and the assists from Jota. Ipswich 2, Aston Villa 2 was the first of the Sunday games. So in the tackles for Ipswich, we had O'Shea with tier 1, Phillips, Morsey and Clark also all with tier 1. In the passes, Greaves tier 1, 59 passes. He's very cheap as well. I might have a look and see if he's managed to get passing. Ipswich have improved. If he looks like he's getting passing on a frequent basis, could be another one that's a replacement for Van Heck. Something to look at again for Friday. And in the shots, we had Phillips tier 1, Taylor tier 1 off the bench, and then Delap, who scored both goals with tier 3. 3 shots on target, 2 goals. For those that haven't got a third striker, I'm fairly sure most people have, then he could be a cheap option to look at, I think. For Aston Villa, tackles tier 1 for Dean, tier 3 for Anana. In the passes, we had tier 1 Carlos, tier 2 for Torres and Konza. So again, were they playing 3 at the back again? Or is it just that more play was getting passed across and Dean was moving forward? I didn't see, so I don't know. Saves, Martinez with tier 1. Shots, Rogers, who's a striker in this game, which is a bit of a shame because he's a very good, cheap, enabling midfielder in many other games, who scored his first goal. Watkins, who's becoming more popular, no surprise, Sunday game, doing well. He scored and assisted. He got the 11 points, so he had 1 shot on target. And Barkley, 1 shot on target off the bench. And the other assist there was for Bailey. Then the late Sunday game that I did see, Man United 0, quite lucky to get 0 the way they played. Spurs 3. So the tiers, we had Dallo, tier 1 tackles, Casemiro, tier 1 tackles off the bench, tier 2 tackles for Ugarte, and tier 3 tackles for Mazraoui. Nobody in the passing. Anana 7 saves for 3 bonus points. And then shots, Martinez and Zerki. Biggest talking point was the Fernandes red card. What VAR were doing once they'd seen the second replay. I mean, in my opinion, Fernandes slips. He's still at fault by raising his leg to catch a Tottenham player. But it should have been downgraded from a red to a yellow by the VAR. Why they didn't, I don't know. I think the ref initially, first look, he's probably thinking, yeah, that's a horrible tackle. But when you see it from the second angle, it doesn't look anywhere near as bad. And then that actually got overturned yesterday, I think, or Monday, by the appeal committee, which I mean, what is VAR there for if it can't do these things? And you still go to an appeal afterwards. It makes no sense whatsoever. Rugby union, much better at this kind of thing. They don't have these kind of mistakes. It's a more difficult game to officiate properly, but they seem to get it right. And I don't really understand the difficulty that football has. There's a lot of subjective decisions in football, and maybe that's half of an issue. But really, I mean, VAR's been in what now? 3-4 years? They should have this right by now, or certainly better anyway. But leave that as it is. Bruno will be back for his owners on Sunday when Manchester United visit Aston Villa this week, having gone to Porto, I think, on Thursday. So 2 more defeats and it could be make or break time for ETH. For Tottenham, nobody in the tackles. They probably didn't need to make many, to be honest. In the passes, tier 3s for Van der Ven, Romero and Bentancur. And in the shots, Porro tier 1, Kulusevski who scored tier 1, Johnson who scored tier 1. Tier 2s for Maddison and Werner, and tier 3 for Solanke. 10-pointer there for, I assume he's going to become more popular. Dominic Solanke in this game. He was cheap, I think 4.4 million due to starting the season at Bournemouth. And the assist then from Van der Ven, who was given all of Old Trafford to run into, and Sarr with the other assist. And then Monday night football, we had Bournemouth 3, Southampton 1. Game was pretty much all over by half time, to be honest. In fact, it looked nearly over after the first goal. So the tiers we had in the tackles, Zabani and Christie tier 1, Cook tier 2 and Senesi tier 3. Nobody in the passes for Bournemouth. And in the shots, tier 1s for Utara, who scored, Tavernier, who assisted, Semenyo, who scored, Sinistero with a tier 1 off the bench, Evan Nielsen, who scored, tier 2. And for Southampton, tackles, Bednarek and Cornet tier 1, Fernandez tier 2. In the passes, Harwood Bellis tier 1, Downs tier 2 and Bednarek tier 3. Ramsdale with tier 1 saves, Fraser with tier 1 shots, and Harwood Bellis, believe it or not, with tier 2 shots. He scored the goal. So let's have a look at where we stand with points for everybody. So highest points scorer, Erling Haaland out to 77. Cole Palmer now in second with 65. Mo Salah third, 57. I've got quite a few there between in the 40s. Jackson, Diaz, Gabriel, Romero, Watkins, Kanate, Van Dijk, and Mbuemo, Saka, McNeil, only 3.4. He's up now to 41. And Andre Onana, rounding out those on 40. And those in the high 30s, Trent, Raya, Havertz, Van Heck, Welbeck and Harvey Barnes. And we're just going to look at the bonus points. So at the top of the shop, we have Bednarek now with 19, Romero 18, Van Heck 16, sharing that with Haaland and Kovacic. He was in both of these tackle and passing tiers, Kovacic, for those that removed Rodri for him. And then on 15s, Diaz, Flecken and Dunk. 13s, we've got Salah, Pope, Akanji and Van Dijk. 1 on 12, which is William Saliba. Not getting as many passing tiers this season as he did last. Whether there's something changed in Arsenal's play, something to bear in mind. And then those are on 11, rounding out the chart here. We have Caicedo, Howard Bellis, Gravenberch, João Gomez, Ndidi, Bruno Guimaraes and Gvardiol. That rounds out a very sharp review of the matches. We'll be back this week on Friday Night Live for a preview of what's going on in game week 7, the last before the next international break. So in the meantime, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please leave a like on the video. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, please do. Enjoy the rest of the European football this week, and we will be back on Friday Night Live at 6:45. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye for now. Ta-da.